Hi, my name is Cameron Four, and I am a field technologist with Omnissa. This is part 2 of our series, How to Get Started with Intelligence for Horizon. And in this video, we're going to be walking through how to use the widgets in Intelligence. So the very first thing that we need to do is we need to create a dashboard. So in this case, I'm going to go up to the dashboard section, I'm going to click Add, and I'm going to do Custom Dashboard. To get started, I'll need to give my dashboard a name. I'll just call it Test Dashboard. And click Save. Now, if your dashboard is blank, you'll notice that you'll have an Add Widget icon in the middle of the page. Otherwise, if you already have additional widgets, you can simply click the Add Widget button at the top. So click Add Widget, we're going to add our first widget, and we need to give our widget a name. Now, typically, before we start creating widgets, we want to think about what are the questions that we want to answer within our dashboard. But before we get into those types of details, let's just look at the overall functionality and workflow. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to call this test widget because we've got to give it a name. And then we have to decide where is the data that we want to pull data from. So because Horizon is one of the primary tables, I will select the Horizon table. And because my question is related to a session, I will click the session table. Now you'll notice here, this is basically confirming where we're pulling our data from. So this is the Horizon session table. The next thing that we might decide is what type of chart do we want to use. It could be a vertical chart, line chart, metric chart, heat map. These are the choices that you have. Your choices change slightly depending on what the data type is. Commonly we have time series data and we also have snapshot data. So if you see any pulls that refer to scoring or something that is labeled snapshot in some way in the name, that'll let you know it's snapshot data. And your chart types may change depending on which data type you're picking from. Now the next thing we have to decide is what is it that we're measuring. So there are multiple examples that I want to show here, but primarily the most common examples are going to be, one, I want to count how many sessions are in the environment, or how many sessions are in a particular pool. Those are probably two common sessions that we can use. Now for the first one, since I want to talk about how to count sessions, first we need to make sure that we're doing a distinct count. So you have a regular count and a distinct count. And to really separate the two, when you're doing a regular count, it's going to count every single data point that we have in a collection interval. So if I say count the last 28 days at a frequency of 1 hour, and I'm counting sessions, I'm going to get duplicate values in there because the session is going to have more than one value in every time frequency slot that we have. So this is why I want to do a distinct count for my first piece. And then if I'm going to do a distinct count, I need to make sure that what I'm counting is unique. So instead of counting something like CPU megahertz, which doesn't make sense to do a distinct count on, I'm going to pick session ID. The reason I'm picking session ID is that I know that a Horizon session ID is going to be unique. So if I'm doing a distinct count of those session IDs, I'm going to get a chart over time that's going to show me how many sessions I had over the last 28 days at a 1-day frequency. The next thing I need to decide is, do I want to group these sessions? So without any grouping, I'm basically just counting all sessions across the entire time period, and I'm not specifying any other further subgrouping that I may want to do to further clarify my question. Now, as I mentioned, a common scenario might be, let's count how many sessions I have per pool. This is where we can use the group by functionality. So in this case, I'm going to say, I want to group everything by pool name. When I do that, this will update my chart so that in addition to just counting how many sessions I have distinctly, I'm going to count how many sessions I have distinctly in the pool for the last 28 days at a 1-day interval. So that's basically how the group by functionality works. It allows me to further refine my question so that it's targeted for the specific objects that I care about. Now, other controls that I have here is I can change how many results I have per group. That'll increase how many results I get in the line chart. The other thing I can do is I can also change my date range. So if I don't want to necessarily see the entire last 28 days, or if I want to do it at a much smaller frequency, I can change these controls. Let's say I just want to do it for the last, I'll pick 7 days, then that will update my chart and it will allow me to further refine my picture so I'm only looking at data for the last 7 days, again at the 1-day frequency. Additional controls I might want to do is using the filtering mechanism. So within the filtering mechanisms, I can further refine my questions. So maybe I only want to care about certain pools. So let's say that I'm going to pick a pool name, and that pool name needs to include discovery. And when I pick that, it's going to then further filter my results so that I'm only looking at the discovery pool. So again, multiple controls that you have and multiple abilities to further refine the result that you're given the functionality within the filtering mechanisms. Other capabilities that you have is you might need to add additional controls. So if I need additional rules, I can do an and or an or statement, and I can add the additional rules. So if I want to do is the pool name discovery and let's say the user name includes C4, I can just count how many users. This basically gets me to the point where I'm counting how many times this particular user had a session in the discovery pool in the last 7 days. Now the answer is 0 because I haven't had any sessions, but if I go back 28 days and further allow that data set to refresh, and you can see that yes, there were sessions that I had in the past, but just nothing in the last 7 days. So this gives you the most common functionality of how to use the widgets. Again, your other controls are going to be changing various chart types. You'll have to play around with that to get to the visualization that you want to see. You can change your different grouping mechanisms, what you're counting. You can do averages so if I wanted, instead of counting sessions, say I want to do the average of a login time, those would be other examples of how you can use these widgets. Once you're done, you simply click save. Actually, I'm going to delete these rules first. Now that I've cleared out my filters, I can now save my widget. It will take me back to the dashboard, and you'll see that the widget that we just created is now visible. So if I need to go back and make additional changes, I can click the 3 dots, come back and click edit. That will give me the ability to come back and refine it if I need to. Click cancel. You might also need to duplicate the widget. So if this is the starting point that you want, so maybe you want an overall session count by pool, but then you want to subdivide it into specific pools, using the duplicate feature is a great way to handle that. Also to note, when you click on view, you also go back to the table view of the widget. So again, once the widget has been created and you click view, you're going to see all of the users, all of their session related information. Here you can come down to manage columns, and then you can add additional columns to the widget if you see some that are missing. Everything with a plus sign means it has not yet been added. In the selected columns pane, something else you may want to do is you might want to reorder the columns so that they're in the order that you want to see them in. So if you want client protocol at the top, you simply drag it up towards the top, you click save, and now client protocol is the 3rd in the list. Clicking back to the test dashboard will take me back to my dashboard, and this will allow me to be my reset point so I can start to add additional widgets and start to build out whatever questions I have within my custom dashboard. So that's all for the part 2 of the series. The next series, or the next part in the series, will be how to go about defining the questions and really more of an advanced view of how to use the tables and the widgets. So thank you for watching. Please follow up to the next session to see additional information.